Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And some of you probably thought about starting your very own sports podcast. Well, let me help you out. I want to tell you a little bit about Anchor. Now, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's an easy way to make a podcast, and it's free. You don't have to worry about paying a bunch of money each month. There are creation tools to allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so you don't have to worry about that. So it can be heard on apps like Spotify and Apple Podcasts and many, many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. So go to anchorfm.com and start your very own podcast today. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
One more time.
Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And welcome to another edition of the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. On this edition, we're going to be talking about two familiar faces to the Who Dat Nation. I'm talking Malcolm Jenkins and Roman Harper. We're going to be talking about Malcolm Jenkins and how important will his role be with the New Orleans Saints this 2020 season. And we're also going to be talking about Roman Harper being inducted into the Saints Hall of Fame. But first, we're going to be talking about Malcolm Jenkins. Let's focus on Malcolm Jenkins and how important will his role be with the New Orleans Saints this 2020 season. You know, Malcolm Jenkins being signed by the New Orleans Saints this offseason, he brings a lot of emotions versus when he got signed by the Philadelphia Eagles a couple years back. You know, when Malcolm Jenkins left and went to Philadelphia, a lot of people in the Who Dat Nation were happy. They were excited. You know, they felt like Malcolm Jenkins was a disaster. He was a person that wasn't worth, you know, the Saints' time, wasn't worth the Who Dat Nation's time. A lot of people just felt like he was a liability in the secondary. And then he goes to Philadelphia and he resurrects his career. He plays 6 seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles and doesn't miss one single game, and becomes one of the heart and souls of the defense, and becoming an unsung leader not only of the Philadelphia Eagles, but the NFL as a whole. And now he comes back to New Orleans Saints, older, wiser, and ready to take on the responsibility of being a leader in the secondary. You know, I'm about to say something that may sound controversial to people, might sound crazy. Some people might raise a few eyebrows when I say this, but here it is. I feel like Malcolm Jenkins being signed by the New Orleans Saints this 2020 season is one of the most important free agent acquisitions the Saints have made since Darren Sharper. I feel like Malcolm Jenkins is that important to the Saints defense. That is my God honest truth. Okay? Malcolm Jenkins is an incredibly smart, talented, tough football player. Is he the fastest player on a defense I've ever seen? Absolutely not. Is he the best safety with the best cover skills I've ever seen? Absolutely not. But there are certain things that you cannot teach, and that's passion and heart. And Malcolm Jenkins has both of those things. You know, I had an opportunity over the past few days, especially on the weekend, I had an opportunity to spend some time to research some Malcolm Jenkins former Saints games, you know, in his first time around when he was young. And I know a lot of people was upset about the way that Malcolm Jenkins actually played defense. A lot of people think that he was the notorious knee tackler during his time, his first 5 years with the Saints. But Malcolm Jenkins possessed something with the New Orleans Saints that a lot of people don't have. And like I said, that's heart. One play in particular I would never forget would be when Tampa Bay played the New Orleans Saints and quarterback Josh Freeman threw the ball to wide receiver Vincent Jackson. And he was scurrying down the field for 92 yards. Out of nowhere, here comes Malcolm Jenkins to tackle him down at the 1-yard line. And I know a lot of people will probably be thinking to themselves, man, this guy's going to score. This guy's going to go ahead and score. It's going to be a touchdown. Let's get the offense out here to try to, match them score for score. Malcolm Jenkins tackled this man down at the 1-yard line, and it caused the Saints to actually create a 4-and-out for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he was in on the majority of the plays. It's been a couple of times where I've seen big runs by running backs and wide receivers while I've seen Malcolm Jenkins not giving up on a play. This is the type of guy that you want on your team, okay? And this is the type of guy that will help your organization, will help your franchise make the Super Bowl. I feel like Malcolm Jenkins is the missing piece to the puzzle of the New Orleans Saints. And yes, he is 33 years old. He will be at the beginning of the season. But the knowledge and the wisdom and the lead by example type mentality that he has is going to help a lot of those guys. That is so important, man, when you have a guy that can lead by example, that can talk to a guy, that sees the field, that can help these young guys develop. And I feel like it is going to be the best thing to ever happen to Marcus Williams. I know a lot of people are upset when Marcus Williams still can't get that Minneapolis Miracle out of your minds, and you feel like he is a lost cause. But Malcolm Jenkins, the way that he was the first time around, is the same way Marcus Williams is right now. And I feel like the person that will be able to reach Marcus Williams better than any other player would be Malcolm Jenkins, because a lot of the issues that Marcus Williams has, we have with Marcus Williams, a lot of people had the same issues with Malcolm Jenkins. I feel like Malcolm Jenkins can wrap his arm around Marcus Williams, talk to him, help him see the field. And I feel like in some cases, Malcolm Jenkins, was a little bit timid at sometimes too. A lot of heart, but sometimes I feel like he was a tad bit timid. And I feel like with Marcus Williams having a conversation with Malcolm Jenkins, it can help him out tremendously. And not to mention a whole secondary as a whole. You know what I'm saying? The entire secondary. You got a guy that's a signal caller, a guy that can tell you, you know what I'm saying, what type of offense is being run. You know what I'm saying? What to watch out for. To have somebody back there that you know that you can trust, that you know is going to make the right decisions, is going to be a plus for the New Orleans Saints. Malcolm Jenkins' acquisition to me is the best since Darren Sharper. And I know when you hear the name Darren Sharper these days, a lot of people like, man, you know what I'm saying? Like, they think about what he did outside of football. But back in 2009, Darren Sharper really helped the Saints on their way to the Super Bowl. He had 9 interceptions. I think he had 2 returned for a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. And he really did a lot of great things. But I feel like Malcolm Jenkins can do the same thing. No, I'm not talking about when it comes to being a ball hawk. No, I'm not talking about when we were talking about returning the ball for a touchdown. But I'm just talking about the way that he can play and the way that he can position himself to actually make plays and also be able to communicate with guys where they can be in the right position, probably to do pass deflections or even some turnovers. This is a very huge acquisition for the New Orleans Saints, and I have nothing but respect for Malcolm Jenkins. And I think everybody in the Who Dat Nation should be excited about him coming back for the second time around. We move on to Roman Harper, man. Roman Harper, first off, congratulations to him. He's going to be inducted into the Saints Hall of Fame. And I have to say, man, he deserves it. Roman Harper is one of those guys, when I think about the New Orleans Saints, I think about him. Now, I know this is crazy because at one time when we had these two guys that we're looking at on the screen, when we had these guys in the secondary, we kind of cringed, man, because we felt like these guys were liabilities. But one thing that you can say about Roman Harper, man, he was a tough guy. You know what I'm saying? Grandpa Roman, as he's called in the Who Dat Nation because of his salt and pepper hair. He always gave it everything that he had, man. Roman Harper wasn't the fastest safety in the world. He didn't have the best hands. I remember at one time he caught an interception of Sam Bradford, and as slow as Sam Bradford is, Sam Bradford gunned him down, you know what I'm saying, after he caught the interception. And I remember his teammates were laughing at him. But Roman Harper was a tough football player, man. I mean, he really kind of thrived and had his best seasons in a Greg Williams defense. I remember that season where he led not the NFL, but he led the New Orleans Saints in sacks. He had 6 sacks that season because, everybody was talking about how weird that was for a safety to have those many sacks. I mean, he was the guy, you sent on a safety blitz, he was getting home. And also, man, he was a really good tackler. Of course, we know that he was a liability when it comes to guarding the tight ends, okay? I mean, if he goes up against the athletic tight end, it is going to be a tough day for Roman Harper. Man, it used to be horrible watching that. You know what I'm saying? No offense to Roman Harper. I know he follows me on Instagram, and he's liked a few of the things, man, so shouts out to Roman. But tight ends, man, it was a long day for him when he went up against some of the best tight ends in the league. But when it came to tackling, man, when he was like that linebacker out there, I feel like if the New Orleans Saints probably would have had him as a linebacker or something like that, mostly in linebacker packages, I think he would have thrived, man. I think he would have done a lot more. But he was an Iron Man for 6 seasons with the New Orleans Saints. He only missed 1 game. And, of course, we know after he left the New Orleans Saints, he went to the Carolina Panthers, got opportunity to play in the Super Bowl for the 2nd time. Even though he was unsuccessful, the Carolina Panthers ended up losing to the Denver Broncos. But Roman Harper, he always going to hold a special place in my heart as a New Orleans Saint, as a fan favorite. You know what I'm saying? Like when it came to that defense back in 2009, he was a part of that defense that led the league in turnovers, and they were fun to watch, man. They weren't the most talented defense in the world. They didn't, it wasn't like they were the 85 Bears or the 2000 Baltimore Ravens or anything like that. But they had a lot of hustle, man. They had a lot of heart, a lot of passion for the game. And Roman Harper was one of those guys, man. When he put his hands on you, man, you're going down. I mean, he had he had triple digit tackles, over 100 tackles a couple seasons. Wasn't a ball hawk or anything like that, but you can always count on him to make a play, especially like in games, that mattered most. So shouts out to Roman Harper. Congratulations to him being a part of the Saints Hall of Fame. Man, you really deserve it, and we appreciate your contributions to the Who Dat Nation. I'm pretty sure everyone in the Who Dat Nation echoes my sentiments. But this has been the State of the Saints podcast. I would love to hear from you. Tell me what you think. Do you think that Malcolm Jenkins is one of the most important acquisitions that the Saints had since this side of Darren Sharper or Jonathan Vilma? Or do you feel like he's just going to be, a cog on a wheel? And also Roman Harper. What do you think about Roman Harper being inducted into the Saints Hall of Fame? Comment down below. Like and share this video. Really do appreciate you. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com. Search The State of the Saints Podcast. Facebook.com, search The State of the Saints Podcast, and also the audio version of the State of the Saints Podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and every other podcast outlet that you can think of. Till next time, all I gotta say is, who dat?